Welcome back for more wow story dramas. And in our first story, we have a bride that has realized that she really doesn't like her bridesmaid anymore and wants to fire her. And in the second story, we've got a bride with the opposite problem. She's trying to get a bridesmaid to come to her wedding. Two brides with the opposite problem. And finally, in our third story, we have a recent bride who's been asked by her friend to be her coordinator as well as her bridesmaid, but she's hesitant. But let's start with the first story, the one that wants to fire her bridesmaid. Opie writes, I know it's a terrible thing to downgrade somebody, but in hindsight, I got far too carried away as soon as I got engaged, and felt obliged to ask her to be my bridesmaid as I was due to be hers 9 months later. Fact of the matter is that we've really grown apart over the past few years. We met at work 7 years ago and instantly became best work friends. Went on holidays together and tried to go out to dinner every few months. As we were moved around to different teams, we began to talk less, until I moved onto a team that she really wanted to join. Then she'd come to my desk for lunch quite often to try to be around them. I helped her land a role within the team as my time with them was coming to an end. Then she proceeded to act like she was the only person to ever work that job and tried to tell me, the one who trained her and whose role she took over, how to do the job. My partner and I had been talking about getting engaged for a while, and we generally chatted wedding plans, as girls do, and I mentioned what color bridesmaid dresses I'd like. Lo and behold, eventually when she got engaged, that idea was chosen for her wedding, along with a bunch of other things we'd planned for ours. I soon learned to stay tight-lipped around her. She even tried to ask what first dance song we were having, but I said we hadn't chosen yet. It turns out that she was asking a bunch of people, so she could use one of them. My partner thinks there's always been some kind of resentment from her side about things pushing her out of the spotlight in the friendship. Example, they bought an old fixer-up house. We bought a new build. I announced my pregnancy to her whilst she was on holiday, and the next day she got engaged, but kept it quiet until they got home, at which point our announcement had been made. Every time people saw us at work, they'd ask how I was doing with the pregnancy, but nobody would mention her engagement. Eventually it got to the point where I had to seek her out at work to say hello, as she would never come find me. She's the type of person that has to be the center of attention. You could literally be talking about anything, and in less than 30 seconds, she would turn the conversation right around back to her. She spent my entire baby shower telling everybody about her wedding. Every single detail. The pandemic hit as I went on maternity, and she never once made the effort to come see me, even when restrictions were lifted. I think she only even texted once after I told her I'd had the baby. But she would post all on Facebook about seeing all these other people. I tried to arrange a meetup around Christmas, but she bought a partner and basically chucked a present at me, talked about herself for half an hour, then left. Foolishly, it was a few weeks after this that I got engaged and drove the 40-minute journey to her house to deliver a bridesmaid gift. In the run-up to her wedding, she barely spoke to me, and trying to get info from her was like trying to get blood from a stone. She kept saying that she didn't want a bachelorette, then said that she did, and gave me a week's notice to plan and book something. I got it all turned around, no thanks to the arguing family members, bought gifts, decorations, and never even got a thank you. On the wedding day itself, I think she said 3 words to me, and also blamed me that her dress was too small. Her new husband made the effort to come say hi to us and our child. She didn't, but spoke to everybody else. My partner said that as soon as I went to the bathroom, she bolted over to the table to talk to the other people on it, then rushed back to her seat before I returned. Even when we were leaving, she just said, "Yeah, bye," and dismissed me with a wave. There's only so much I can put down to wedding stress. After the wedding, I decided to test to see how long it would take her to contact me without me initiating it first. 4 months, and even then the text was all about her. She hasn't asked me a single thing about the wedding, and when my maid of honor set up a group chat to arrange the bachelorette party, she replied with, "I'll give it a miss, but thanks for the invite." Like it's my bachelorette, not some random dinner. So yeah, I think it's safe to say the friendship has run its course and I don't want her as a bridesmaid anymore. Hell, we're barely even friends anymore, more like work acquaintances now. And seeing as we still WFH, it's not like we'll see each other there anytime soon. So I need some help in coming up with how to word the message that I don't think she should be a bridesmaid anymore, but her and her husband are still invited as guests. I doubt she'd come anyway, if only to talk about her own wedding and make comparisons. Apologies that this became so long, though it feels good to get it all off my chest. Wow, OP, she does sound like a bitter Betty to me. Quite jealous. The fact that she never even thanked you for the bachelorette party, she told you that she didn't want one, she didn't want a bachelorette party, and then with only a week's notice, she changed her mind, and then she didn't thank you. But the way she avoided you at her own wedding, and the only words she spoke to you were, "Yeah, bye." Well, definitely there's a lot going on here. Tell me what you all think about this. It seems to me that at some point these two actually became frenemies. It took OP a bit longer to realize it though. But definitely OP, this person is not your friend anymore. This is somebody that sees you as a rival at work and in life. But let's see what other people have to say about this. I definitely see why you'd want to just invite her as a guest, and she probably feels the same. Has she purchased the bridesmaid dress? If so, is it returnable? If not returnable, I'd offer to buy it off of her or reimburse her. Other than that, just tell her you sense that the two of you have been growing apart for some time, and that the bridesmaid's responsibility may be more of a burden than something fun, and ask her if she'd like to attend as a guest instead. OP responds, "No, luckily there's been 0 purchases made on her side, so there's no cost involved that I'm aware of." Someone else writes, "Coworker, I'm sorry, but I must inform you that our wedding plans changed. I can no longer ask you to play a role in my wedding party. Thank you for accepting this. Fiancé and I are looking forward to celebrating with you and husband as our guest on the wedding day." I don't feel that it is necessary to explain why, but if you want to, you could add, "Since our friendship has grown apart in the last months/years, I can no longer ... Someone else writes, "Yeah, just say that you're downsizing the party and that you hope she understands. And you're sure she remembers well how much stress that wedding planning is. And thanks for understanding." Well, that's it for that story. And OP, I wish you the best of luck with your wedding. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot more fun if she's not there. Let's move on to our second story, and in this story, we've got a bride-to-be that is trying to hang on to her bridesmaid. OP writes, "I asked my bridesmaid to be in my wedding in July, so about 8 months before my wedding. My bachelorette party was in October, but since I didn't have a maid of honor, I helped to plan most of the party and even paid for more than half my share of the hotel food for the party. They did give me gifts for the party, so that was nice. The wedding is a destination wedding in Florida because I have moved around a lot and my bridesmaids live everywhere. So to save money for them, I paid for their accommodations, half of the bridesmaid dresses, hair and makeup, transportation while there, and part of their food. They didn't help me plan anything, and all they need to do is buy a flight and show up. One of my bridesmaids texted me a month before my wedding and told me she lost her job, so she can't afford to go. I offered to cover her entire trip, including her flight, because it was important for me to have her there. She wouldn't answer my phone calls for days and finally called me back to tell me that even if I pay for her, she doesn't want to take a day off work if she gets a job, because she and her boyfriend want to take a trip over the summer, 3 months after the wedding, to the Philippines, and they don't want to do both. She told me she was telling me enough in advance and that her circumstances had changed, so her trip with her boyfriend was more important. However, she committed to my wedding months ago, so I don't feel like it is being a friend to ditch out so close to the event. She told me that maybe last minute she would buy a flight the day before the wedding if she had a job, and then she could attend, but at that point there wouldn't be a seat for her. It's a week until the wedding. As far as I know, she hasn't gotten a job yet, so she could have attended, as I would have paid for her. I don't think I want to be her friend anymore, and she clearly doesn't value the friendship. Is this unreasonable? Well, OP, it sounds like your friend still doesn't have a job. Her excuse was she can't attend your wedding because she doesn't want to take an extra day off because she wants to go to the Philippines with her boyfriend. But if she doesn't have a job, then that's not an issue and you are willing to pay for her flight. So there are some questions here. I'm wondering, why doesn't she want to go? But let's see what some other people have to say about this. I'd let this friendship fade away. Not worth the aggravation. Focus on the joy of getting married. She cannot upset you if you simply drop the rope. Someone else writes, from my perspective, this is incredibly inconsiderate on her end. I can appreciate being strapped for cash, but she should have said this a long time ago, not weeks before the wedding. It's unfortunate, but to me, I'd call this an end to a friendship, or at least an end to a close friendship. I had a similar-ish sitch for my wedding with one of my bridesmaids, and she essentially backed out of being a bridesmaid with not much for an excuse, but then immediately after the wedding wanted me to be in her bridal party and do so many things. It was odd. Long story short, we do not talk anymore. Sorry you're going through this. Someone else says, to me, this becomes shady around the not wanting to take a day off because she wants her summer trip with her boyfriend. She knew right out of the gate she was going to need to take a day off before she even lost her job. Plus, you offered to pay for the trip just because you wanted her there, and she still said no. I think she really never wanted to be a bridesmaid, and she's grasping at excuses. Her, I lost my job and can't afford to come. You, I'm so sorry, I really want you by my side on my day, so I'll cover it for you. Her, ghosts. Her, even if you pay, I don't want to take a day off from my hypothetical new job so I can go on a trip with my boyfriend to the Philippines this summer. You, the trip would be months after the wedding. Her, well, we don't want to do both. Circumstances have changed. Circumstances changed, but her plan to ditch out on your wedding never did. Trust me, she never intended to be a bridesmaid for you. Someone else says, yes, she lost her job. It's entirely reasonable to put spending on hold in that situation. And it's also reasonable to hope for a new job, but not want to take off the very first thing after you get an offer or hired. It's also okay for her to prioritize her vacation with her boyfriend on what could be a dream trip for them over your wedding. Sorry, but hard as it is to believe, other people may have things in their lives which are more important than your wedding when they have to budget money and time off. Someone else writes, I'm so sorry you're going through this. She is acting very selfishly and clearly doesn't honor or value your friendship very much. I personally feel that this is grounds for a friendship breakup. Your wedding will be fantastic in the end, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who love and support you. Someone else writes, have you talked to her directly about how she's coming off? I wonder if she knows how inconsiderate and not a real friend she sounds like right now. Is this typical of her? Maybe she's really stressed due to her financial situation and she's in a codependent relationship with her boyfriend. You are entitled to your feelings and they are valid, but I wouldn't end the friendship without knowing why she's making these kinds of choices when she knows it hurts you. OP replies, yes, I did. She originally texted me she couldn't go, but didn't give a reason besides money, so I was worried something was wrong. I couldn't get a hold of her. She wouldn't answer the phone and text me she would call me back in a few days, so I was worried and texted her boyfriend and sister to make sure she was okay. He responded to me and told me she was fine, but because of unforeseen circumstances, she couldn't go. When she finally called me back, she told me it was a money situation. So I offered to help her out and told her it was really important for her to be there. And then she told me because of her other trip she wanted to take, she wasn't going to go. And she felt she had given plenty of advance notice. I told her she wasn't being a good friend and she ignored that and just said I didn't understand where she was coming from and that she wants to go on this vacation really badly and can't do both. The vacation she wants to do hasn't been planned. She decided she wanted to go because the Philippines no longer require quarantine, so it will be easier for her to travel now. Well, that's the final update from OP. As I read through this, the thing that I was wondering about is, what is her friend's boyfriend like, and does she even know this guy? Because something sounds really fishy. Maybe being in a financial situation where she's dependent on him has some influence on these things? I don't know, something sounds really strange over there. But OP, it's better to concentrate on your wedding day because there's nothing you can do about your friend attending. You've done your best. Let's move on to a third and last story. OP writes, I just recently had my wedding and I did all the planning. I did hire a day of coordinator though, and I'm so glad that I did. To thank one of my friends for her help to help me get ready the day of my wedding, I took her out to lunch. During lunch, I told her that I'd return the favor when she gets married in September of this year, and assist her with any help that she might need the day of her wedding. She then asks me to be her wedding planner and day of coordinator. I told her that I'd help her with the design and decor, but that I don't feel comfortable doing the day of coordinating job because I'm not a professional and I think she should hire someone, but that I'd be willing to assist the coordinator with anything. She said she wanted to save costs and trust that I'll do a good job. Her wedding will be held at a backyard of a mansion that she's renting for the weekend, but everything will be DIY according to her plans. How do I gently tell her that I think she should hire a professional for that because I don't want to be responsible if the day becomes a disaster? Well, I certainly have sympathy for OP on this. And just the fact that she doesn't have confidence in herself to coordinate all of this, that alone means that she shouldn't do it. Her friend clearly thinks she can do it, but, this is the kind of thing that can end a friendship if things go wrong and the bride ends up blaming OP. But let's see. Let's get some comments on this one. Just keep your response short and simple. Sorry, but I just don't feel comfortable being the coordinator. No need to elaborate or explain yourself or offer alternative ideas unless she pushes you to. She really does need to hire someone though, instead of relying on guests to do work at the wedding for free. But let her figure that out herself instead of getting too involved. Someone else writes, Sarah, I was so uncomfortable doing this stuff at my own wedding, I hired a professional. Believe me, I cannot do it for yours. I'll give you an introduction to the coordinator, and I'm happy to share some of my spreadsheets, little black book of contacts, and things to help you plan. But I am not a wedding planner. Another person writes, your friend is being cheeky and unreasonable. Her wanting to save money is not your responsibility. As others have said, I would make it clear that you don't feel comfortable/able to coordinate a wedding. I would point out that you didn't even coordinate your own wedding. Technically, you had a wonderful coordinator who helped a ton, especially since her wedding is DIY. Be a ton to coordinate, and I would absolutely not agree to it unless you are very confident you could deliver. She's already trying to brush past your I'm not comfortable doing this, so you need to be firm. And I'd focus on I can't do this. Someone else writes, I'd say something like, I've been thinking about our last conversation. I want you to have the best wedding you could possibly have. And I know that I can't coordinate your wedding. I had a paid coordinator at my own wedding, and your wedding might need even more coordinating than mine did. I'm more than happy to assist with tasks here and there, but I can't plan it or coordinate it on the day because I can't do the job like a professional, and I would never forgive myself if anything went wrong on your special day. So please do not ask me to. And then hold firm. Someone else says, so are you not going to be in her wedding? You absolutely can't do both. That's the whole point of a day of coordinator. I think she might have unrealistic expectations surrounding wedding planning. I'm planning mine, and it's a whole part-time job. I'd never do this for anyone else. No more updates from OP, but I'm sure she found a way to tell a friend that she really can't do it. And hopefully her friend understands. It's one thing for her friend to want to save money, that's all fine and well and good. But if you're going to put somebody in a position like that, where potentially they could mess up everything, it's really not worth that little bit of money you're going to save. So OP, I hope your friend gets a coordinator and that your friendship remains intact. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to the wow drama stories of the brides-to-be. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps me to grow my channel. I'll see you again next time for more wow drama stories.